chrisarnson@gmail.com. And prior to the break, we were talking about Christian liberty and the abuse of it. And Jeff from Clinton Township, Michigan, who is listening, he says, related to the issue of worldly music, I've met men recently who are playing with cigars, pipes, and alcohol. I'm sad to see the elements of the world that I was fleeing after my salvation appearing among the younger folks in our church today. Is all of this related to the hyper-grace movement? Aren't we supposed to pursue personal holiness and godly behavior? Am I being unreasonable in my opinions? Well, that's a very good question. And as we were saying before the break, we, on this program here, at least right now, seem to be in harmony that those things that were mentioned by Jeff may be a part of a Christian's liberty to participate in moderation, but there is also a danger of flaunting liberty selfishly and making a brother stumble. Am I correct on that, Paul? Would that be your view?
Yeah, I kind of, when I was in fundamentalist churches for a couple of years after I was saved, and by the grace of God, I was led through the doctrines of grace after a couple of years, and I think the key, we got to be consistent in whatever position we take. We can't, we got to be careful not to create 1,000 different things to avoid. However, anything that's an idol, I remember talking to a friend of mine who struggled giving up cigarettes, for example. I don't think, personally, that cigarettes, and this might get me in trouble, in and of themselves are evil. However, it's not the smartest thing to do. So, but and if it might be damaging your health, which might be, well, it is a violation of, I can't remember the commandment off the top of my head, thou shalt not murder, to preserve your own life. So, but but you could also ban Coca-Cola because there's junk in Coca-Cola as well. So I just think that you've got to be consistent about it. Has it got control over your life? I don't care what it is. If it's cigarettes, if alcohol's got control over your life, that's an idol. If, I don't know, you could think of anything, sports, massive...
Cheese whiz.
A huge idol nobody wants to talk about is sports.
Yes, you're right.
And I'll be honest, it's something I struggle with. I spend probably too much time looking at, football news. I'm a bit of a Liverpool fan, but, I probably spend too much time in my spare time doing it. But you see, the thing is, whatever it is, right? I'm not saying, okay, go smoke cigarettes and do all that kind of thing. It's not good for your health. It's not smart, but can I say that, because they created all these temperance movements in the 19th century out of the revivalist movements, and they were like, oh, we're going to ban coffee, we're going to ban tea, and seriously, it became just a list society. I just would encourage people to avoid that, but try and go from the positive angle, if that makes sense. I'm not saying we don't deal with it. If somebody's addicted to smoking, quit. The end of story. But for the person, I've read and I believe some of these people exist. I'm not sure, but if it's possible to enjoy a pipe and you're not getting whatever on it, and
depends on what you're putting it in, I guess.
You enjoy the flavor of it. I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong. As long as it's not really affecting your health and all that. Again, if you want to be consistent with a ban Coca-Cola because the junk in there, you know what I mean. You could,
right.
You know what I mean.
And of course the appearance of evil. I mean, we don't want to make people stumble. We don't want people to unnecessarily question our Christianity. For instance, my pastor at Grace Baptist Church in Carlisle has told me that he would never drink even a glass of wine in public. Not that he has a belief in a strict prohibition against alcohol, but he doesn't want to unnecessarily give people who don't have a deep enough understanding of that issue to immediately question whether or not he's a Christian. And I know that is a very real thing, and that could go with smoking cigarettes and so on. There are certain things that perhaps are better in the privacy of your home when you're surrounded by people who are like-minded.
And I think Paul did things like that as well with meat and things like that. He said, yes, I can do these things, but I'm going to forgo it for the cause of Christ. I'll become all things to all men. Not saying that I will change the message, but I'm not going to put an unnecessary stumbling block in front of people. if I have to forego some liberty that I can legally partake of in order to win a person to Christ, so be it. I don't think we should go, oh, look at me, I'm so fantastic, I'm so free. You got to be careful with that.
Yeah, and there's also a difference between somebody who occasionally, in a celebratory fashion or who just very moderately smokes a cigar, and somebody who's always got a cigarette hanging out of their mouth. You know, I mean, there are differences of the appearance that you're giving to the world with that kind of thing.
I think there has to be a consistency, and I say whatever. You have to be consistent about it. And I remember talking to my friend a couple of years ago. He said, do you think smoking's sinful? I said, inherently, I think we should preserve our health as much as possible. I think there's a general principle of that so we can serve the Lord. And he was kind of nodding his head and said, okay, yeah. And, I think for what I know, a number of the Puritans were smoking pipes, not that go ahead and do it or anything. But how would I put it? It's like we've got to be careful. It's very easy to, the swinging the pendulum between complete lawlessness, we don't want that either, to legalism.
Right.